The anime begins by showing a man named Dariel, who is a member of the demon race. Dariel is not just any demon, he is known as the Dark Warrior. When Dariel seeks an audience with the leaders of the demon race, the 4 pillars of the demons, he is shocked. He is informed that he is to be expelled from the Demon King's army. Bashbarza, the 2nd generation king of the 4 pillars of demons, believes that Dariel is unfit for the army because he is at the lowest rank and unable to use magic like the others. Dariel, now outside the castle, starts to ponder over the words of the 4 pillars. He realizes that demons have always been in conflict with humans, and despite their similar appearances, the ability to use magic is the differentiating factor. Feeling humiliated for being a demon unable to use magic, Dariel begins to feel downcast, staring at his hands in despair. As Dariel descends the stairs, he is approached by a demon soldier named Lizard. Despite Lizard addressing him as the Dark Warrior, he proceeds to insult Dariel for being a low-ranking demon. Unaffected by Lizard's words, Dariel simply tells him to call him by his name. Just as Dariel is feeling hopeless, a girl named Malika, being chased by a monster, appears. Dariel tries to defend them by attacking the monster, getting hit in the process. Seeing a knife dropped by Malika, Dariel hesitates, knowing that using human weapons is considered shameful for demons. However, Dariel realizes that it doesn't matter anymore. When the monster attacks him, he instinctively stabs it with the knife, surprising himself with his swift action. Exiting the forest, Malika takes Dariel to her village, Locke's village. Grateful, Dariel follows Malika into her house to express his thanks, where he meets Malika's parents. Dariel remains silent, still feeling like he's in human territory. The next day, Malika's father offers Dariel a job as an adventurer in the village. Meanwhile, their father is a former adventurer who has now become the leader of the Union, but he still wants Dariel to become an adventurer because he thinks that Dariel's body is still fit and capable enough to be an adventurer. That's why he considers Dariel should become one. Father Malika then took out a paper with a magic circle drawn on it to register Dariel as an adventurer. Seeing this, Dariel immediately became wary of the registration ritual because there used to be many demon spies who were badly hurt by the ritual, so in his opinion, only a human could perform the registration ritual. Therefore, Dariel tried to make excuses by pretending to be in great pain, but their father immediately asked his daughter to perform the registration ritual. Hearing this, they stabbed Dariel using a sharp needle, prompting him to quickly place his hand on the paper. Unexpectedly, Dariel got the mark of an adventurer on his hand. Seeing this, Dariel became very confused because he always thought of himself as a demon. But in reality, Dariel was a normal human there. Then he remembered the demon who found and cared for him, Grand Verza, the demon king of the 1st generation of the 4 pillars demon, which is why Dariel was employed as a soldier by the demon king. However, it all ended when Dariel was fired by the demon king of the 2nd generation of the 4 pillars, so now he lived in Locke village as a human after registering. Father Maria would teach Dariel to become an adventurer, and first, he would teach Dariel how to use aura. Aura is a power possessed by all humans there, which adventurers can use to coat protective gear in future battles. Therefore, Dariel was asked to choose a weapon he wanted. Dariel chose a sword to channel aura because he thought the aura he was learning now was very similar to the magic exercises he had done before, even though he couldn't feel anything before but now. Dariel easily used his aura, and after successfully mastering aura, Father Malika would find out the type of Dariel's aura. There are 4 types of aura used for adventurers' weapon selection, and first, Dariel was asked to perform a slashing movement, but to do that, Dariel had to be able to chop down a very large tree trunk. Inside, Dariel felt very hesitant because it was the first time he held a sword, but he immediately became very happy after being encouraged by Marga there, so Dariel tried to focus so he could split the large tree trunk. Dariel's intention was just to cut one side, but it turned out he could split the tree very easily, which surprised him at how strong his aura was. Then, for the second test, Dariel had to perform a stringing movement, and Dariel was able to perform the movement very easily. Seeing that made Malika's father very surprised by its greatness, but their father also felt a little annoyed by her talent, while on the third type. Dariel was asked to perform a hit bluff there, and of course Dariel was able to do it perfectly because Dariel could crush a large rock with just one blow. While for the last type, it was a movement to be able to defend there, but Maria's father was very annoyed by Dariel's talent, so he asked Dariel to be able to withstand his father's hammer attacks using only a wooden shield. So their father immediately attacked Dariel very seriously, but once again Dariel was able to exceed their father's expectations. In fact, their father was thrown backward because he couldn't penetrate Dariel's defense. The conclusion of the training was that Dariel's aura suited all types of weapons he wanted to use. Therefore, their father suggested to Dariel to go to a broader world because he didn't want to confine a great person like Dariel in such a small village. Then Malika's father, who is also the village chief, introduced Dariel to the villagers, while Dariel also introduced himself very politely because now he would become a resident of Locke's village. His attitude made people very calm because before they were worried about Dariel coming from outside their village. Dariel considered it a very good beginning. But there was a man who didn't agree with Dariel's arrival, and that man's name was Gashida. Gashida was the only adventurer in Locke's village, and he came there, immediately boasting that he had reached rank D. After that, it was shown that Malika's father remembered that the monster was a very tough monster called Etmon, and decides that Gashida was someone who had been hunting it for half a month. So when Gashida found out that his mission had been completed by Dariel earlier, it made him very angry. Some time later, Dariel went to the forest with them. Dariel tried to suggest to Malika that she could just go back to the village because in his opinion, the forest would be very dangerous. But they were still enthusiastic about going into the forest. Then suddenly a deer appeared hiding behind the bushes there, but instead of being frightened, the deer became more aggressive and immediately fought against the ant monster. Seeing that, they immediately prepared weapons to capture both monsters. Meanwhile, Dariel quickly followed them to capture the deer along with the monster. Some time later, Dariel and Malika returned to the village while bringing their prey, and their Gashida became very angry because the ant monster defeated by Dariel was the one he was looking for. So Gashida left while throwing away his mission paper that had been completed by Dariel earlier. Not only that, Dariel began to feel anxious about something, so he didn't want to ignore his anxiety. So he hurried to the place where the snake monster had passed by. Then the real one began to question the adventurers who were surrounding the monster. It turned out that there was only Gashida there, alone, being chased by the snake monster. Seeing that, Dariel immediately prepared to fight, risking his life. So he started to coat his weapon with aura because he wanted to seriously fight against the monster. Not only that, he also thought that he might end up dead if he got careless for a moment. However, the snake monster only wanted to chase Gashida, who had resisted by shooting arrows at it, but the monster's skin was very tough. So Dariel started attacking the monster with his sword, but his attacks were too shallow. Because of that, Dariel was counterattacked by the snake monster, and his sword was destroyed. This made Dariel think to combine our movements and Sting's movements. Finally, Dariel threw sword fragments to kill the snake monster. The next day, Gashida began to call Dariel a bang because she wanted to respect Dariel who had saved her life, but it made them both uncomfortable and eventually they started arguing with Gashida there. Even their argument touched on the Demon King's army, while on the other side, the four pillars of the demon were discussing because one of them had been defeated by the hero party. The member of the four pillars of the demon referred to was named Zebiantist. But Zebiantist started to argue that he didn't know the hero had gained new fighting companions. Not only that, the new companion of the hero was a spear user, which made Bashbarza ask why Zebiantist didn't get information about the hero party's new strength. This is because before a fight, it is the basis of war. Zebiantist, feeling cornered, began to blame the advisor present in the discussion. After that, Gashida was shown starting to join the adventure to complete the mission of finding medicinal plants together with Dariel. Meanwhile, Dariel was very annoyed with Gashida who kept babbling on their journey, but he still felt grateful because Gashida wasn't his enemy anymore. Not only that, Dariel also had a new problem, Malika, who liked him too much. When he returned home, Malika greeted him with a tragic hug, grabbing the map requested by her father. And when Dariel asked his father about the village, Malika immediately explained why some houses were empty and uninhabited there. It turned out that the village was very prosperous because it was very close to the mithril mine. Meanwhile, mithril itself is a metal with very unique properties and can be made into weapons that have unparalleled performance. The next day, Dariel immediately visited the mithril mine and also visited an old friend. It turned out that Dariel negotiated with them to be able to sell some material to the villagers so that the residents could also benefit later on. Even though Dariel was a soldier from the demon race, he still secretly entered there, but his disguise was in vain because there wasn't a single guard from the demon race there, not even inside the mine, and there were no residents either. Suddenly, Dariel saw a demon child with a very dark face, and it turned out they were all acquaintances of Dariel, so they were very happy to meet him. The demon children immediately told Dariel that they had to gather a large amount of mithril. Hearing this, Dariel started asking them why they were doing this, so they answered about who ordered them all, but they forgot the name of their supervisor, which made them start arguing there, so eventually Dariel assumed that Bashbarza was the one who ordered them. Suddenly, the demon children began to cry there. Not only that, they also said that when Dariel became the supervisor in the mine, they were all very happy, which was very different from now because some workers had been sent home to reduce their expenses, while the demon children were forced to work there, making them very eager to escape. Hearing this made Dariel very sad, but he couldn't do anything anymore because he was no longer a soldier of the demon race. Then suddenly, a supervisor responsible for the mine appeared, while Dariel hid while watching them all. But the supervisor became angry because the demon children were considered to have sabotaged the mine's results even though the demon children were unable and it was impossible to work in mining mithril. Because they complained a lot, the supervisor immediately used his magic to scare the demon children. Then suddenly one of the demon children resisted and hit the head of the supervisor with his shovel. Seeing this made the supervisor very angry with him, so he asked his soldiers to kill the demon children. And when one of the demon troops began reciting his incantation, Dariel immediately thwarted it. Therefore, he emerged as a hero figure for them. Not only that, Dariel also wore a mask made from underwear, telling the overseer to retreat, or else he would become their opponent later. However, suddenly Dariel sensed a very strange smell. Even one of the demon kids screamed because he lost his underwear, which he had placed there. This made Dariel realize that the smell he smelled was coming from the mask he was wearing. But unwillingly, Dariel had to keep wearing the mask to avoid being discovered later. Meanwhile, the overseer immediately accused Dariel of inciting the demon kids to oppose him. Therefore, the commander directly ordered his troops to kill the demon kids and also Dariel there. Hearing that, Dariel had to reluctantly resist. But because he didn't want to hurt the demon troops, Dariel borrowed underwear from one of the demon kids to tie his sword sheath. Then, when the demon troops were reciting their incantations, Dariel launched his attack. Not only that, the demon kids also joined in the attack, but the demon troops kicked them all instead. Seeing that, Dariel remembered the very professional duty of a soldier where they shouldn't kill a worker even so. Despite this, Dariel, who couldn't use magic, memorized every spell. He also remembered the time needed to recite a spell, so Dariel started his attack, starting from the troops with short incantations to those with long ones. Seeing that, the overseer panicked and asked his troops to use their strengthening magic, the stone hand. But Dariel easily destroyed it. Not only that, he easily countered the overseer's magic. In the end, the overseer couldn't do anything in front of Dariel, so he confessed that he was just a servant. But because he was too close to Bashbarza, he was appointed as a commander there. Therefore, the overseer spoke about the honor of a knight, saying that Dariel was not worthy of killing civilians like him. Hearing that, Dariel answered why the overseer still asked his troops to kill the demon kids, even though they knew about the honor of a knight. Therefore, Dariel decided to punish the commander. Then the overseer asked to leave and resign from the demon troops. Consequently, the demon troops were expelled by Dariel, so the demon kids were very happy with Dariel's victory. However, they were very worried because Bashbarza would definitely send his troops again. Nevertheless, the demon kids trusted that Dariel would continue to protect them. Meanwhile, Dariel lived happily in the village. As people there were sitting relaxed, gazing at their prospering village, Dariel received a visitor the next day. It was someone from the adventure guild in the urban center called Best Trade. Best Trade asked Dariel to assist in negotiating with the demon children regarding a business deal. Dariel had tried to speak with the demon children before, but they became wary when Best Trade was around. Best Trade's plea convinced Dariel to try talking to the demon children. When Dariel arrived at the mine, he said a few words, and the demon children happily agreed. After exiting the mine, Dariel met Feedbeaten's party, and his companions greeted him. However, Feedbeaten was still angry with him from a previous incident. Suddenly, a magical voice called the demon children, and unexpectedly, it was Lizard, a warrior from the demon nation. Lizard, not wanting direct confrontation, immobilized Dariel with magic. But when he realized it was Dariel, Lizard hugged him tightly. Dariel then mentioned an idea they could offer for a trade in Mithril. That night, Dariel brought Lizard to Best Coret, who was shocked to see him. Best Trade wanted to establish a business partnership with the Demon Nation, while Dariel intentionally wanted to cooperate with them to avoid conflict over the mithril mine between demons and humans. Dariel informed Best Trade that the Demon Nation's mithril needs were met, preventing attacks from the demon forces. The next day, a mechanical showdown occurred between Feedbeaten and Dariel. Feedbeaten brandished his mithril weapon, warning Dariel not to flee. However, Dariel showed only a small mithril dagger, which made Feedbeaten burst into laughter. Unfazed, Dariel focused on the mechanical duel for the sake of the demon children and the Locke's village residents. He realized Feedbeaten was not to be underestimated and fought seriously. With determination, Feedbeaten declared he would wait until his grandfather made him a new weapon. Suddenly, Feedbeaten's armor shattered from an unseen attack. Dariel then pressed on, urging him to surrender. Enraged, Feedbeaten attacked, but Dariel's sword extended remarkably long and withstood the assault. Dariel easily cut through Feedbeaten's shield, revealing that his sword was unique to him alone. His sword could change shape according to his aura, making Dariel incredibly strong and overpowering. Feedbeaten was shocked as all his mithril weapons were destroyed, but he continued the duel with the sword. Despite his anger, Feedbeaten jumped into the air, but Dariel's attack, created with his whip, proved too strong. So in the end, thrown far away some time ago, Dariel recently made a request about his punishment. Let Dariel decide because he wants them to help repair the neighbor's house that was damaged due to the previous mechanic duel. Hearing this, Best Trade was very surprised because the punishment was very light, while Dariel explained that he also felt very guilty. Therefore, the punishment he gave was enough for him. Best Trade's goal in coming there was because he was afraid of losing Dariel's trust in the future. In his opinion, Dariel was very important, so Best Trade would offer a job at a guild in the city center. Hearing this, they were very surprised. That night, in the hot spring bath, Dariel was thinking about Best Trade's job offer earlier. Dariel was very grateful for the job offer because if he went to the city center, he would encounter many new experiences. He might even find his parents. On the other side, in the demon land of Grand Verza, while Bashbarza was doing his training, he was very surprised to see his father's recovery. His father explained that the wound from the hero's attack was starting to heal, and to speed up the healing process, he was doing exercises to be able to move freely later. Then his father invited Bashbarza to eat together and also invited Bossa to discuss the current situation of the palace. Not only that, he also talked about Dariel, who was being questioned by the demons. His father recounted that thanks to Elba's Tsubasa, Dariel was accepted as a successor. Although many demons objected because he was too easygoing and arrogant, his father asked about Dariel's condition now. Hearing this, Bossa tried to lie about Dariel's dismissal before, but his father became very angry because he knew what really happened there. His father was really angry at Bashbarza's foolish actions. Because he had released the perfect talent that Dariel had as an assistant to the kingdom, his father asked Bashbarz to apologize to him. Not only that, he also asked him to bring Dariel back to his kingdom. Hearing this made Bashbarz very angry and unwilling to do so. He even said that he would not depend on garbage like Dariel anymore. Thus, Bashbarz wanted to prove that as the son of Grand Verza, he would become the strongest lion in the kingdom. Therefore, he would succeed in becoming a general even without Dariel there. A year later, Dariel had become the head of Lock Village and also became the son-in-law of the former village head. Since then, Lock Village became even bigger and even the mithril mine became more prosperous. Unfortunately, Dariel had been abandoned by Smith due to his old age. It was evident with his child, a very cute and resembling his mother, named Grand. As for the reason Dariel took the name Grand, it was because he remembered someone who had cared for him in the past. He was even considered as his own father, Grand Verza. Then, while they were gathering, Gashida suddenly approached them. It turned out he wanted to convey that a hero would soon come to their village. Dariel immediately recalled a praised and admired hero by the humans there, but in the eyes of demons, this hero was merely a cold-blooded killer whom he always fought against. Therefore, Dariel referred to him as a heavily bearded hero. Dariel became very panicked and frightened because he believed that the hero's arrival in Lock Village was solely to eradicate him. As he was a former member of the demon army and now the village head, thus he had to welcome the hero who would soon arrive there. And so the villagers gathered to welcome the arrival of the hero. Dariel immediately put on a mask because he was afraid of being recognized. However, when the hero stepped out of the horse-drawn carriage, Dariel was shocked to see that the hero was a woman. The girl introduced herself as Raid, while her two assistants were named Sasha and Sadom. Raid explained that the previous hero had retired after being injured in a battle with Grand Verza. Hearing this, Dariel took off his mask, but suddenly Raid stared at him as if judging him solely based on gender and age. Raid remarked that fighting wasn't just for men, which made Dariel feel more intimidated by the girl than by the bearded hero. Raid then explained their purpose for coming, to order mithril armor. Not only that, she said it while peeking at the note in her hand. She then showed it to the heroes staying at Dariel's house. The next morning, Sadom greeted Dariel who was walking around, and as Raid was still asleep, Sadom tried to wake her up, eventually succeeding. However, as Raid was still not fully awake, she was speaking incoherently. She didn't even realize her shirt was half off. When she finally became aware, she went back into her room and came out again, trying to appear dignified, but her ribbon was upside down. Embarrassed, Raid quickly went to the mithril workshop with Dariel. Meanwhile, Raid and her assistants were amazed to see the mithril workshop, especially the mithril statue of Dariel's grandfather and the comically shaped mithril being forged. Dariel then promoted the finished mithril weapons to Sadom, who tried one by channeling her aura. The strength of the aura made her stagger. That makes Sasha want to try it too, but when she saw the two of them, it made Raid impatient to have a special weapon made for him. Not only that, they also had to make this special weapon for all their comrades, so Dariel immediately called Sakai, who was the disciple of the bald old man in the previous statue. Then Sakai greeted the lady hero by kissing her hand. But what was very ridiculous was that he ended up kissing the hand of her assistant instead of the hero herself. Sakai began to check the aura of the lady hero by using a technique of tickling the palm of her hand. Initially, Raid wanted to be angry with him, but he didn't do it because Sakai could guess the aura type of Surrey. Then the lady hero stated her second goal, which was to recruit new members to join her group. By coincidence, we happened to be there, so she asked to recruit her. Hearing this made Mr. Malika very excited and proud because his fellow villager would be recruited as one of the heroes in the party group. Therefore, their father wanted to hold a contest in which 26 adventurers in the village would directly fight against the party of heroes, which consisted of only 3 people. Raid would fight them using a wooden sword, Saddam would use a pot lid and a fork, and Sasha would use a tree branch to fight them all. Seeing this made the adventurers very surprised. But even though they used such weapons, unexpectedly the 26 adventurers were easily defeated there. Seeing this made the lady hero very disappointed. But shortly after, an attack came from the direction of the tree, and it turned out to be an attack from Geshida. Then Raid had hurried to approach her while avoiding her arrow attacks. And when Raid wanted to release his aura, he accidentally threw a tomato from Dariel. So Raid immediately stopped his fight right away, while Jacitha began to cry and told Dariel that she had been foiled. But Dariel tried to reassure her and immediately showed Jacitha's ranking, which had reached rank B. Not only that, Dariel also said that Geshida was the strongest adventurer in the village. Hearing that, Raid began to complain to him, so he asked Dariel to fight him there because he felt that the strongest person in the village was only Daniel alone. Even Raid did not accept a refusal to fight him, so he immediately attacked Dariel suddenly there, but Dariel easily managed to deflect his attack. He could even counterattack Raid. As a result, a fight broke out between the village chief and the young heroine, and Raid was very happy because his guess was correct that Dariel was indeed very strong. Therefore, Raid would be serious to fight him right now, so he immediately used his sword and prepared to launch his special technique. Seeing this, Dariel remembered a bearded hero, and it seemed similar to the aura of the young heroine's technique. Nevertheless, Dariel was still not afraid and immediately imitated the strongest technique, while Raid was very surprised because his technique was countered by Dariel's imitation technique. Then Raid became even more convinced that he wanted to recruit Dariel to fight the Demon King, but Dariel refused and left just like that. That night in Saddam's room, she told Raid that according to her thoughts, Dariel had a duty as a village chief, which was equally important as their duty as heroes. Meanwhile, Raid went out of his room because he had promised to meet Dariel there. Raid asked why Dariel could use a technique of a hero, and in his heart, Dariel said that he often saw the bearded hero using such a technique and he thought that the technique of splitting the wind was very easy. Then Dariel answered Raid's question, saying that he didn't know. As a result, Raid, who became very angry, attacked him there, saying again that Dariel, who had talent, should fight on the front lines against demons so that they could protect humanity from the threat of demon races in the future. Hearing that, Dariel answered that the reason why demon races fight is to defend themselves when heroes come to attack them. And that means if the heroes don't attack, there won't be any battle there, while on the other side in the land of demons, Sawsask is shown to be very troubled because he can't find Dariel's whereabouts until now. Not only that, Bashbarza has also disappeared somewhere and some of the tests no longer come to the meetings of the Demon King's generals. The next day, Rizit visited Dariel's house after negotiations about Mithril with the guild from the urban center had finished. It turned out the reason Zebian skipped the Demon King's generals meeting was because he was following Rizit there, and eventually he managed to find Dariel's residence. Then it's shown with Rizit being very fond of his son, Grand, so Rizit tells that thanks to Dariel, he's now considered a special squadron officer, a position equivalent to 4 generals of the Demon King. Hearing this, Dariel becomes very happy, but they are both very surprised when Zebian suddenly appears using his wind magic. Shortly after, Grand falls asleep deeply while Rizit is made a chair and sat on by Zebians. The reason he does this is because Rizit has been hiding Dariel's existence from him all this time. Soon after, Malika returns from somewhere because there's a special guest there. They prepare drinks for Zebians, but when they hear Zebians insulting Dariel, they become very angry. Zebians also gets angry because Rizit has been hiding things about Mithril from him. Therefore, Zebian starts following Rizit until he arrives in the village, and then asks Dariel to immediately hand over all the Mithril he has. Dariel immediately refuses his request because Zebians is not like Rizit, who has a very kind attitude. Zebians gets very angry and threatens Dariel, but suddenly Zebians becomes very scared when he sees Malika starting to glare at him, while Dariel wants the situation to calm down, so he takes Zebians out of the house without bringing them along. And when he was far from home, suddenly Zebians began to attack Dariel as a form of intimidation. Not only that, he also threatened that if Dariel didn't hand over the Mithril, Zebians would destroy the village directly. He even challenged Dariel to compete with him in mechanics. Hearing this, Dariel had to face him, whether he liked it or not. But before doing so, Dariel asked Rizit to stay silent and not to help him there, while Zebians mocked Dariel for using weapons to fight a woman. Dariel then jumped and started attacking him using his fastest moves. Zebians was left powerless, and Dariel declared victory. This angered Zebians greatly, leading him to unleash his ultimate magic, which, if left unchecked, would destroy their village. Dariel then demonstrated his hero skill, the wind-splitting dragon, and wanted to save Zebians, who was about to fall from the clouds. However, Dariel ended up falling with him. Rizit then cast a water spell to provide them with a safe landing. Unexpectedly, Dariel grabbed Zebians' underwear, making Zebians cry loudly.